Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Live Album Love, alongside in the co-captain's chair, Mr. Rick Labonte. What's going on, Rick?
Greetings, everybody. How you doing, Pete?
Doing good, doing good. I'm always doing good when we're talking about Deep Purple. And
Oh,
today's
me too.
episode, we talked about the Allman Brothers last time. Another band that has a lot of live albums. Well, Deep Purple's got a lot of live albums. We'll be doing Hendrix next, so we figure we pick off the ones that have seemingly the most live albums out there. And Deep Purple certainly has a lot. One of my favorite bands of all time. I've been buying live albums for many years. But the cool thing about Deep Purple is, while we were growing up fans of the band, they didn't have a lot of live albums at the time, but in the last like 20, 25 years, the Purple archives have opened up and we've got a slew of killer Deep Purple live albums because, right, Rick, growing up, we had Made in Japan.
Made in
I'm not going to talk
Japan.
about Made in Japan today. We all know how great it is. We know it's
Yes.
amazing and all
It's
that.
legendary for a reason.
Yeah, Mark II, the pinnacle right there. We're also not going to talk about Made in Europe. Also amazing.
I know.
Should have been a double. Great live album from Mark III. Amazing. We'll talk more about this in relating to other albums coming up. We're not even going to talk about Nobody's Perfect, which was the maybe not as heralded and beloved live album from the 80s, right? This came right when Mark II reunion was probably coming to an end once again. Uh,
Yes.
but good for what it is, right? Not too bad.
And
And,
because
you
and
know,
and be- and because you had some 80s material that they have performed, that was the first album to have some material from that. So it's we had it for many years before they opened up the vault and released everything we had. So in
Yeah,
fact, we
nobody's
did.
perfect. There was some layover from, we got a lot of songs that were also on Made in Japan. However, like you mentioned, we've got Perfect Strangers on here.
Yes.
We've got Hard Loving Woman on here, Knocking at Your Back Door. And then most importantly, which I think a lot of people were pretty excited about at the time, is we've got a version of Hush with Ian Gillan singing on it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But overall, I don't think this is a classic Purple live album.
No.
And
Though I
maybe
do
the
think the House of the Blue Light song that they played on those records are good live. That version are the best versions of those songs, in my opinion, because the album I thought was a little slick and not as beefy, not as strong. So, but because they're live and they got the power behind it, it's on those songs. And at least for my money, I always loved hearing that. And plus, to have those intros and improvisation between the songs between knocking on the back door or Perfect Stranger to John Lord doing his thing. It's always a treat to see John Lord take that little bit of a keyboard spotlight and give us some, whatever you feeling that night. Cause never the same every night. Not the big key about all that's about Purple.
yes, and I will say, especially early on, and especially when Richie Blackmore was in the band, because he has been notorious. I mean, maybe not as much in recent years, but certainly when he was younger, he would never play riffs exactly the same way. He would never play solos exactly the same way. So you could literally go out and get all these, as we're going to show you, all these live albums from the same tours, but different nights, different venues. And it's a different listening experience every night. It's kind of almost like the Grateful Dead of hard rock, right? Different improvisations, little different solos, different licks, different lead-ins, different vocals. It's which is cool. I mean, that's why we love buying live albums because back in the day, today it's not really like that today. Today you get these bands, whether they be newer bands or classic bands, that go out, they have a certain set list, they play the songs the same way every night, same set list all the time. It's great, but was different back in the 60s, 70s, and part of the 80s, right? Where every night could be something different. And, you could go see your favorite bands 3, 4 times on a tour, and every show is kind of different and worth going to. And then if you got live albums, well, the live albums are all a little bit different, right? Just a little bit in some cases.
That's right. Because the modern shows that you have click tracks or they're playing along to a video cue, they're worrying about the big production. Everything's
Yeah.
on a time order. There's no room for stretching and no room for letting the song breathe out a little bit. And so even though light show has always been a Deep Purple right to this day, always had some pretty decent light show for the time, but that was not that doesn't hold them down to be allow them to improvise and stretch a song, especially in the '70s. But like you were saying, they were kind of like that band. But I think Led Zeppelin was doing that quite a bit. There's a
Oh yeah, for
handful
sure.
of bands like Jimi Hendrix that we're gonna talk about, Allman Brothers. They did that. It gave them a license to go ahead because they were that good of players. They
Yeah,
will almost be like reading each other's minds, knowing where they're gonna go. They're just waiting for that one trigger and away they go. So they'll show you how tight they are because even though they get different every night, the band is so tight because it's not sloppy. It's not how they present it all. It show you how you have to be a good band like them to pull this off. So
yeah,
that's why for us it's nice to watch it because they're really stressing it and you wouldn't know it because it's so tight and so well done and well thought because they're so good as a band and that really shows on the recording. So that's why we keep want to find out how they did that night or that night.
yeah. That's why we keep buying this stuff, right? I mean, it's just like, oh, there's a new this coming out. Oh, from this tour,
Wow,
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it.
right
So what
on.
we're gonna do is we're gonna take you through time in the history of Deep Purple and go through all the eras or the marks, right? Mark, or however you like, mock or mark, however you like to say it. One, two, three, four, five, blah blah blah. And if we got them, we'll show them. And we're gonna go all the way back to the beginning to start. So Mark One, there's not a lot of stuff available for Mark One.
No,
However, there was one that was released, and I had to get it just because you got to represent, right? And it's Inglewood, California, 1968. Rick's got it as well. See,
oh yeah,
yeah, and this was released on Sonic Zoom Records, part of the Deep Purple overseas release schedule, and this came out in 2009. And this was recorded at the Los Angeles Forum in Inglewood, California, or Los Angeles Forum. Yeah, I don't know why it's called Inglewood, but it actually was recorded in Los Angeles. I don't know what. Whereas I guess Inglewood is right on next to Los Angeles.
yeah.
No, I don't
Usually
know
that's
my.
its own form. Yeah, so it's
Yeah, I don't know my Southern California all that well. But anyway, this is from October 18th, 1968. It's not a full show to my knowledge, or maybe they were opening up for another band, and it is. But
that's
they
my guess.
this is not, I would say, Rick, and maybe you agree, out of all of the Deep Purple live albums I have, this is probably the worst quality recording out of
Yes,
all of
this
them.
actually sounds like a bootleg, even though it's a
Yeah,
radio transmission,
yeah.
somewhat, and it's just the whoever was doing it wasn't as skilled as an engineer as some other recording.
And actually, they
But
opened up for Cream. That says
yeah,
it right
that's
there.
it. They will open an act, and
Yeah.
this what also important about this is that they only had the three albums, and this is a snapshot right just before the third album come out. So at this point, they're just the second album's out, and but then again, they're doing something. Hush, Kentucky Woman, Mandrake Root, Help, the Beatles cover, Ring That Night, River Deep, Mountain High, and Hey Joe. So again, a lot of covers of stuff, trying to get the crowd response. And this is, I think, one of the first two trips as a band in
Yeah,
America.
through the States for sure. And what's interesting, not only the fact that you get a live concert with Rod Evans on vocals, which is very rare, you got two tracks on here, Mandrake Root and Ring That Neck, were both originals. Where on following tours, when they would start to headline, those would be the big jammy songs, right? Which
Yes.
eventually became Space Truck and a couple other tracks. But Mandrake Root and Ring That Neck were both the songs that would be like 10, 15, 20 minutes long. Just a short time later, we'll get to that in some of these other
Mm,
albums, which is kind of interesting to hear them in like shorter, condensed versions. But
right.
definitely worth checking out if you like the Mark One era of the band. But just be forewarned, this is not great quality. It's okay,
No.
but
It's more of a historic thing. And
yeah,
Nick Simpler was the bass player.
yep, for sure. Mark One, so definitely worth getting. And so let's move up to, I guess, the beginnings of Mark Two. And
Yes.
I'm sure you have this one. This is the earliest one in my collection.
I got this as 1969.
Well, yeah, we should talk about that too. So
That's
that,
very important because this is kind of the crossroads for Deep Purple at the time too, because John Lord was really interested the way the Moody Blues were bringing the orchestration. They've already did it in the third record, and so he had these three movements that he wrote that he had orchestration playing along. But the show also has some covers, I mean, of Deep Purple stuff, especially when you get this one. You get a recording of them doing Hush, with Ian Gillan way back then, but this wasn't available to us in this fashion till later. So that's why when Pete mentioned Nobody Perfect, that was new for us as listeners. But now the earlier version of him is really good, a good take actually. Ring That Neck and Shout in Time as an earlier stage before we would have actually released it on an album, I think, by that point. So that
Yeah,
is
definitely.
that's the earliest stuff I have with this new lineup. The only thing they did prior to this was that Hallelujah song, or
Yeah,
whatever.
so I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's where I was going to go next. So Ian Gillan had just joined the band here, and Roger Glover, and also very notable for this concert is, especially if you have the video, if you've seen the film, this shows Richie Blackmore playing a Gibson guitar,
Yes.
335, not a Stratocaster yet, which is pretty cool. So that leads me to believe, and again, I don't have any pictures here, but I bet you on this tour here, that's what he was playing because that's his Gibson was his guitar of choice early on. So yeah, so there's that. So that was September of 1969. And then
Yes.
I've got this from the Montreux Jazz Festival in October of 1969. And
Nice.
there you can see Richie with the Stratocaster. So this also, so October 4th in Montreux, Switzerland, 1969. Here you've got Speed King. Remember, this is pre in rock. So
Yes.
this is a early working of Speed King, which I think at the time they were calling Kneel and Pray. You've got Hush, Child in Time, Ring That Neck, 21 minutes long. Painted Black, Rolling Stones cover.
Hmm.
Mandrake Root, 22 minutes long, and Kentucky Woman, 6 minutes long. This is very good. Very, very good.
Cool. My next comes in the very called Live and Rare of 1970, right at the tip where they have Ring That Neck, Speed King, Into the Fire. I love that tune. Painted Black, Mandrake Root, Shout in Time, and Black Knight, which is his, lo and behold, will be one of the first hit to be really get a mark on the radio. That was a big deal for them. And if you get a video around our time, it's called In the Vault, there's a time period where you get some of this stuff of the 70s going right into Machine Head. So it's a little mix. Go ahead.
And I believe that version you have, or the CD you had, because I had
Yes.
that as well, that was then re-released as the Stockholm 1970.
Yes, it is. I have that. I didn't get it because I knew it was the same show.
Yeah, yeah. And the only reason to upgrade is this has a bonus DVD live from Granada TV from 1970, which has them playing Speed King, Child in Time, Ring That Neck, and Mandrake Root. So you may want to consider that, Rick. I don't know.
Yeah, oh, I definitely will.
These are good.
I
These are
know this stuff.
the
Yeah.
Edel releases. There's a whole series of these. These are
Yeah.
so
I
well put
got
together.
most of them. I didn't got that one though.
Yeah.
It's like the one next to that would be what, 1971?
Yep.
Palm Beach, is that your next one?
Uh, I have that as well. Yeah, I have something else I'll show in a second,
Oh, okay, go ahead.
but yeah.
Go in the order you go. Yeah, that one.
I just before I forget, because it's an early 1970. I
Yeah.
do want to do the Gemini Suite live, which was
Yes.
kind of like their second doing the whole classical thing. They did it like a year later, which is pretty cool. It's just got the three movements on it. It's like roughly, I don't know, 40
Right
minutes
on.
worth of music. Pretty cool stuff
Yeah,
there.
and that's great. In 1972, to before we go to 71, this one of this Deep Purple on concert, the 1970, the first disc, which is again nice treat to hear those versions and a different life of its own. So
Yep.
again, it's like you said, the length of Mandrake Root is different from night to night, and so it's really nice to see it. And then of course the second disc is more 1972. We'll get back to that.
This is actually, they released, I'm trying to remember when the first time they released this. I think it was like 1980 or something like that. This would have been a great album to release during the 70s because I mean you hit
Sure.
the nail on the head. You've got like a full show pretty much from 1970
Yes.
and 72, and there's no overlap in songs at all. So when you kind of put them together, I mean, literally, this is what you get here. Speed King, Child in Time, Ring That Neck, Mandrake Root, Highway Star, Strange Kind of Woman, Maybe I'm a Leo, Never Before, Lazy, Space Truck and Smoke on the Water, and Lucille. That's killer right there.
Big time.
Yeah.
And Never Before is not something you get in a lot of these albums.
No,
So that
not at
in
all.
itself is worth it because I love that song.
Not at
And
all.
yeah, these are really good versions of the song too. Great recording, by the way. Everything we've been sharing so far are pretty, If there's just something wrong with the recording, we'll let you know. But
Yeah.
keep it in mind, Deep Purple do put out good sounding live albums.
Yeah, I would say, obviously I'm going to recommend a lot of this stuff, but if you're going to just kind of test the waters on
Yes.
one Mark II album that's not made in Japan, get this one. It's
Yeah,
really, really good. There's a
it
lot of
is
good stuff. All right. So you mentioned the
amazing.
Long Beach 71. This is killer too.
This is amazing
Yeah.
performance, and again, it's great because you can see with these shows they're in an English tamed audience. They're polite, clapped at the end.
Yeah.
But this is a little more rowdy USA in terms of the audience really digging into the music, and so you really feel that they're feeding off the energy of the crowd.
And this is all right around the time where Mandrake Root is ready to be replaced by um,
Space trucking?
Space Truckin' as the
Yes, I agree.
big epic of the set list. So this is notable for I think the last kind of tour where they had Mandrake Root still in the set list. So it's notable for that as well.
And I think passage of that music is in space trucking when they extend it sometimes. They always
Oh
come
yeah,
out.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
The-
there's certain some of the soloing and some of the back and
Yes.
forth stuff is very similar. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
right. Then they consider that triggers, right? So
All right, what do we got? 72 next. So 72, as most people know, is made in Japan, but there are other things, right? So
yes.
there's the
Now,
made
made
in
in
Japan.
Japan been done in a couple of ways as we go. We had the vinyl, we had this version, and when they would CD world, they didn't, it was like uh, they didn't break it down in two CDs like this one. Now you get the encores as well, so that's kind of nice to get that later on, which is Black Knight, Speed King, and Lucille, which is a nice treat
Got to
to
have them
get.
in the set, right? I mean, it's just
Yeah,
now that you have it with it, you can't listen to it without him, right?
and now I do have that box set with all three nights here, and they. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, there we go. We can reach it, and
Yeah, so this is all the nights, three discs. So you got Osaka 15th, August 1972. I'm sorry, Osaka 15th. August 15th, 1972. Also the 16th, 1972, and then Tokyo the 17th. So basically 3 days, three shows. And if you know, I know you'll agree with me on this. If you know this, like back to front, note for note for note, you can listen to these three complete shows and be like, yep, that's the Made in Japan
right,
version,
big time,
right?
big
And
time.
quite frankly, they picked the best versions. The
They
Made.
did. They did absolutely, and probably fitting the vinyl to make it,
Yeah.
fit. But it did change the set loader. It wasn't "Strange Kind of Woman" isn't the second song, but we get shot in time to make it fit.
Yeah, I don't know if people can read it, but that gives you the
Yes,
set list night to night. But yeah, they do mix it up a little bit. Like you'll get like so the first night in Osaka, you got Highway Star, Child in Time, The Mule with drum solo, Strange Kind of Woman, Lazy Space Truck, and Black Knight is the encore. Night two, it's Highway Star, Smoke on the Water, Child in Time, The Mule, Strange Kind of Woman, Lazy, and Space Truck. And so it's a little bit different.
yeah, it
And
is.
then
"Smoke on the Water" is the second one.
night three in Tokyo, you basically get is it almost it's a little different. So you get Highway Star, Smoke on the Water, Child in Time, Strange Kind of Woman, Lazy Space Truckin', and then Speed King. Speed King was not played on either of the other two nights. So
Mhm. That's
pretty
it.
cool, right? I mean,
Yeah, right on. So they could Deep Purple geeks here without talking here, but yeah, we get excited about that kind of stuff.
oh,
And
of
then there's
course. Yeah.
1972. They is great, eh? Two CDs of this, and again, I'm doing Black Knight live again. And again, a lot of these songs are gonna repeat, but I love the running order of this one. Highway Star, Strange Kind of Woman, uh, Shot in Time, The Mule, Lazy Space Trucking, Fireball, Lucille, and Black Knight, second night. And then they give you a bonus of three songs from 73, Strange Kind of Woman, Smoke on the Water, and Space Truck, and an interview that the Australian 1971 tour where they talked about what kind of a snapshot in time of what were they thinking at the time. And it's a good listen. It's really interesting.
It's really good. And for those who are probably, curious about this, this is the audio version of the live in Copenhagen. I forget what it was called, DVD that came out many, many years ago, which is all in black and white. It's amazing. This is that whole show.
That's
So
right.
familiar with the
I was gonna,
video,
this is it right here.
the one right there. Yeah,
I was
nice.
gonna say, and also they include a live New York show of 1973 would be the last footage you would get Ian before he no longer would be in the band,
Got the
and
full
Roger
beard
Glover
and
came
everything,
out.
right? Yeah, you can
Yeah, he had a
tell that there,
beard,
yeah, there's issues going
and
on there.
yeah, it shows him right there
Yep,
with
yep.
the beard there.
I believe Rick, wasn't that from somewhere in Long Island, the New York? I'm trying to
I
remember where. I don't think it was
I'll
the
have to
Garden. I
find
think it was
out, but
somewhere in
it's
Long
just
Island.
New York, that's for sure. I remember
Yeah,
seeing that.
I don't
But
remember
yeah,
exactly
and
where it
that'd be
was.
anyway. It's good to have this footage. Like it's like oh my gosh, it's like getting that Zeppelin DVD and all those things. Just go, you mean they had this all the time? Why did they take so long to release this stuff?
So it was recorded at Hofstra University in Hempstead, Long Island, May
Yeah,
29, 1973. I knew it was in Long Island somewhere. I just couldn't remember where. So yeah, it's cool to have because that's basically the Who Do We Think We Are tour. And right at the end before they break up, they kind of get rid of Gillan and Glover. And you can kind of tell like Gillan and Blackmore are not even looking at each other. And you can tell there's a lot of tension there. But yeah, this is absolutely killer. So this is the end of Mark II. We're going to move on to Mark III. And what do you got for us
and
there?
who's in Mark III, my friend? As if you really don't know, but there are people learning for the first time.
So the first one is live in London. This is from the Burn tour. This is pretty early on. This is live at Galmont State Theater in Kilburn, and this is really really good. A great London show. Two discs. Burn might just take your life. Lay down, stay down. Mistreated. Smoke on the water. You fool no one. And space trucking. So yeah, this is very good. This is
Very
very
good,
good.
good recording too. Very
Yeah.
good.
It's weird because there's not a ton of recordings from the Burn tour for whatever reason. There seems to be more from Stormbringer, which, whatever reason. But this is probably, I mean, the next one we'll talk about probably is great too. But I think this is just really, really solid. Band sounds great. Uh,
Right, and they have a lot more control of the audio because the show that you will talk about after it's so huge and the crowd's so big and so it's a great performance. But if sound wise, I think it's really captured a lot better. The dynamic of the band is captured on film here. However, when you're talking about this one, this was a major impression for the world to see this band for the very first time. And there was an argument among ELP versus Deep Purple, who's gonna close. And Richie, I guess, was a little pissy, and eventually someone got on his nerve, whether it's the cameraman, but the camera got destroyed by a
yep,
guitar.
yep.
Maybe it was all part of his theatric. If I'm gonna have to follow you guys, you follow us, you're gonna make sure you have to work hard. I don't know, but what an incredible show! And to think that David Coverdale, like third or fourth something gig or something like that, it was like he only been in the band for a little while, and to see a sea of people. I mean, at least these guys got working experience. David Coverdale didn't, and so that's an incredible thing to see. The only thing I wish they would correct, they had they used a boom stand for David Coverdale to sing, and gave a straight mic for Glenn Hughes to sing. It should have been the opposite. So a
Yeah.
couple of times he wanted to do the white snake thing and lift up the mic stand, and it doesn't quite balance that well. But he hold his own. But it's a great performance, and it got
Oh,
to
it absolutely
everybody to
is.
see.
Yeah.
It was amazing to see. It was electrifying, and to this day, it became legendary. I think, let's face it, they had very little material to play except mostly the album they recorded, Burn, but the performance is so strong, the crowd ate it up.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any difference between these two here, um, as Rick said, this is Coverdale playing in front of the biggest audience he'd ever played in front of really early on in his career with the band, whereas this was at a much smaller venue. I think he does a fantastic job.
Hmm.
I've heard lots of rumblings that this is the beginning of cocaine's a hell of a drug for Mr. Hughes because he's way more histrionic on this and screeching than he is on this. But the band is just absolutely on fire at the
Hmm.
California Jam. Just, I mean, they're like one of the biggest bands in the world at the time, and
Yes,
you can see it in front of all those people, and it's just yeah, it's amazing.
and
A
I
lot of
believe they
people
were
I've talked
breaking
to think that
records.
this was the greatest concert ever in the history
Yeah,
of the
they were.
world. I don't know, you know.
I heard they broke a record that year, right, for the loudest concert for them. That was the
Yeah,
year they broke that
yeah.
out.
So should we move on to the Stormbringer tour? Because
Yes,
this is where it
yes,
gets interesting.
yes, sir.
So the band released Stormbringer. Richie's very disenchanted with the music. He's been hanging out with the opener from the Burn tour. Of course, that's Elf. He's infatuated with the skills of Ronnie James Dio and loves the band. So he makes a decision that he's going to leave Deep Purple at the end of the Stormbringer tour, and he's going to put together a band called Richie Blackmore's Rainbow with basically the Elf band. And so they're like, okay, we'll take your resignation, whatever. We got the tour to do. And literally, every performance I've heard from the Stormbringer tour is like some of the best Deep Purple live material I've ever heard. Richie
It's so
playing
tight.
the best I've ever heard him on that tour.
You wouldn't think you wouldn't think there was any kind of animosity. It's like you would have thought it was all brotherhood because man, he's so focused, like laserly focused more with these lineups. So what album you want to show first?
So, well, let's to kind of lead it in. So again, this Made in Europe are recordings taken from the back end of the um, Stormbringer tour,
Yes,
mostly from France and Graz and a couple other places. I think there's like three or four gigs where it's
yes, right.
taken from. So this is like a best of those last couple of and
Yes.
so Rick's
So
got the Paris,
yes,
basically Paris and Graz. And I've got Live in Paris. This is the complete show from the last performance in Graz. I believe what Rick has is may have all of it or part of it. I'm not really sure. I know there's one is a definitive version. Not really sure what.
yeah,
So
I
does
have
yours have, let me
everything,
read the
including
track
the
list. You might be
interview
missing
with
a
them.
couple
75.
tracks from mine. So I got Burn, Stormbringer, The Gypsy, Lady Double Dealer, Mistreated, Smoke on the Water, You Fool No One, Space Truckin' Going Down, and Highway Star.
Yes, and also an interview of 1975 with Coverdale, Hughes, and Pace. That's the actual thing on here, is
Gotcha.
that you get an interview of them where the headspace was at. And
So
then the
that
next
was
one,
that's basically the last night of the tour. And Graz actually, I think, is 2 days before that or something
that's
like that.
right.
Yeah. And this is not quite the full show, but it's got Burn, Stormbringer, The Gypsy, Lady Double Dealer, Mistreated, Smoke on the Water, You Fool No One, Space Truckin'. So it's basically Missing Going Down and Highway Star, right? Pretty much. And it's got
And
the
it says
Gypsy.
according here, released for the first time in its entirely. So it might have been the shortest step for whoever knows. If things are late or whatever, it might not have the same time.
It's
But this is a
fantastic
good
though.
show. And you
Oh,
can
it's
see where they
awesome.
got that made in Europe in some of those songs from here. I hear it
Yes.
and I go, oh yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing. I mean, for me, I absolutely love this because um, it's great to have what was not on the wherever the hell where did I put it? So what's this is fantastic. I love Made in Europe, but it was always missing the Gypsy. It doesn't have what else? Obviously, it doesn't have the Mark II stuff. Not that I
No.
really care because I never liked the Mark III version of the band singing the Ian Gillan stuff. It just never worked for me. But it would have been cool to have at least one of those songs on here. But the fact that the Gypsy is on here and also on Graz, I think is great because they performed it so well and it's such a great song. But yeah, these are must-haves. If you like this a lot, if you love this, you need to have these. You
Yeah,
need to have
to
these.
me, and recorded like again, modern technology remastered, beautiful enhanced sound. You feel like you're in the room. And also, I gotta say on that note, this whole package here, you do feel that what Pete's saying that I think it's one of the best performance Richie have. It's a shame that they didn't release the entire thing like this because if you want to show off how good of a guitar player he is, he's so lazily focused. The band is so tight here.
Well, I mean, that's the crazy thing about this whole scenario, right? Because we know what happens 15 years later, where he's disenchanted with the band again, and he doesn't show up on stage. He blows off encores,
Yeah,
all this,
yeah, we got
right? I
that.
mean, so here he knows that he's leaving the band. He could have just phoned in his performances during that whole tour, and he doesn't.
No,
Some of the best Blackmore playing I've ever heard in my life is on those shows. And it's just
yep,
like, man, how cool is that, right? That he knows he's leaving. Maybe he's just so excited because he's got something, when he left Purple in the early 90s, he didn't really necessarily have anything else waiting in the wings. I mean, he eventually went and put Rainbow back together and then he went and did Blackmore's Night. But here he knew he had something else ready and waiting. but he didn't phone it in. He said, "I'm going to give it my all," and
Well, obviously, they must have that feeling of, hey, buddy, we got to finish this contract. We need to give them a recording. They recorded this material, so they must have thought we got to put out a live album, and Richie's not going to go out without having a good, leaving a good name for himself. So maybe that was his conscience. Well, I'm going to give it my all because it's my last time I have to worry about Deep Purple, and I'm going to do it good. Who knows? Because they end up recording a lot of shows
yeah.
just period. And so,
And these
like
are
you said,
sonically very good for those who are
yes,
wondering about the sound quality of some of
oh,
these. I mean, these are excellent. These are excellent. All the
amazing,
stuff on that's been released on Burn and Stormbringer tours are very, very good. Very
big
good
time.
quality. So
Right?
all right, so Richie leaves the band, Tommy Bolin comes in, Mark IV is a thing, right? We've got
Yes,
I've got two releases. Do you have any more than that
I
on
have three
you have
in
three?
total.
Okay. I think the first one, and this is to my ears, the best of them. This is the Long Beach from 19. No, actually, no, this is the later one. So let's do the first one first.
Yeah,
So they released Deep Purple. What was it? What was the official release called?
Phoenix Rising.
Live in Tokyo. I'm trying to remember what because they did release after Mark IV was done. They released the Tokyo show, but I don't remember what it was called. It wasn't called Made in Japan. It was something else in Japan. I don't remember. Anyway, that's basically this time around live in Tokyo. So this is with Tommy Bolin, and this tour of Japan was marred by his drug addiction problems, and he is not good on these shows at all. And this was from 1975. They continued the tour into 1976, but that's what you got. That's the one I was talking
That's
about.
the one. That's the one. Okay, I was gonna say I didn't want to interrupt, but I think it's last concert in Japan.
That's the one
However,
they released. Yeah,
Phoenix Rising is a little better. Some of the performance is a little better. They have a DVD with it, but at that time his hands were frozen. He couldn't play.
yeah,
He
yeah,
was stuck. He had these cramps, so he couldn't do any normal bar chords. It was like it was a shame because it was the night they were videotaping it.
yeah.
But yeah, so but anyway, um, it's not his finest hour
No.
for sure. But this one is a lot better, and that's why you wanted to mention that, right?
Yeah,
Because
Long Beach. Long Beach
Long
is
Beach
great. Yeah,
is
this is
sort
this.
of a
There's really none of the
redemption.
issues here. Yeah, this is quite good actually. Uh,
Yeah.
Granted, you got Glenn is also strung out beyond belief during this too, so he's doing a lot of the wailing and screaming thing. But Tommy sounds great here, and the set list is great. So you got Burn, Lady Luck, Getting Tighter. You got that's a long version too. You got a lot
Yes.
of the Come Taste
Crazy.
the Band stuff. Getting Tighter is great. Love Child's on here. Smoke
Yep.
on the Water, Lazy is really long. Homeward Strut, This Time Around, which is great. Ode to G, Tommy Bolin guitar solo, Stormbringer, Highway Star, Smoke on the Water, and then bonus stuff from another
Yeah,
date.
from a 76
Yep.
Springfield show.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to get one Tommy Bolin live album, I would.
This is
This is
it.
the Long Beach again. That's the one that Rick has is the updated one. That's
Yes.
the newer release. Mine's an older one, but they're either one is if you can find it is worth getting. Really good. Um, I'm glad they released that because you don't want the only live document to be the Japan one, which is
Well
not very
said.
good at
Well
all.
said. I
I
mean,
mean, I have it just because you got to have it, but you listen to it, it's just like Tommy just does not sound
yeah.
good at all. It's like
It's
not good at
more or
all.
less, yeah. I mean, well said. And you want it for the historic part of it, but the
Yep.
idea is that it's not his finest hour, and that's for sure.
No. All right. So Deep Purple breaks up. They reconvene in '84 with Perfect Strangers, and they start doing the tour late '84, early '85. What do you got next?
I got the Australian tour, um, Perfect Stranger Live, a two
Yep.
CD set with a DVD, three a DVD combo in here. So they get the tour that you saw. You got to see him for the first time,
Yep.
and what a set list! Highway Star, Nobody's Home, Strange Kind of Woman, Gypsy Kiss, Perfect Strangers, Under the Gun, Knocking at Your Back Door, Lazy, Shout in Time, Difficult to Cure instrumental going into
Yep.
keyboard solo, Space Trucking, Black Knight, Speed King, Smoke on the Water, and then the bonus disc is the DVD of that entire show.
Yeah. Yeah. I have that on DVD. I don't have the CD version of that, which is
Oh,
great.
okay.
Um, yeah, that's classic. And then also on the same tour, they played at Nebworth. which is a very similar set. There's really, I don't think, anything different here. And this is a double disc set. This is very cool. This is on the Connoisseur label. I think this was released in 1991. But, of course, Nebworth, huge, huge open air festival. And I'm not sure if they headlined there or they were just one of the main acts, something like that. But that's worth getting. Do you have anything from the next couple of tours?
Well, the only thing next would be the House of the Blue Light.
Yeah,
But I do want to point out that in the meantime, there is a DVD that has all the stuff from the years called New Live and Rare from 1984 to 2000.
yeah,
So
that's
it has
cool.
some other footage of that tour in here. And it was great to see them do these numbers and a different take and a different, where they had, many shows under the belt. So they're really tighter, they really, come strong in the presentation. So I'll read this later at the year 2000 mark, show you some of the key songs why you might want to get this.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And
Okay.
so, neither one of us have anything from the Joe Lynn Turner era.
I no no no, but I
I think
do.
I
You
don't even know if they
mentioned
actually
already.
released
Nobody's
it.
perfect because of how
Nobody's
the blue
perfect.
light, right? So
Yeah.
that this is where this comes in on that order, and that would be my tour that I saw, and it's my very first ticket. I went to Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, and we took a tunnel bus, and there's no way my parents would let me under age of 17 to go to Detroit with my buddy. But at that time, we were old enough, and we did our own thing. And before I was on my own at that age. But Deep Purple and Bad Company opened up. So it was my first show of many concerts, because that's why these things are thick, book of all my uh, ticket stubs. But that was a memory. And these songs were played just like this in my show. I had the Highway Star, Strange Kind of Woman, Perfect Stranger, but introduced a new song, Hard Loving Woman, Knocking at Your Back Doors, Child in Time, Lazy Black Night, Woman from Tokyo, Smoking the Water, and Hush. And if you get the cassette, you also got Dead or Alive, another tune of that was out there. So depending on the medium, you didn't get it. So I had to go buy it, of course, just to get the extra tune.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have anything from Battle Rages on, other than right at the end of the tour.
Okay, well, I do have this one. Do you have this one?
I
At the
do not.
1993, they released this
Stuck
album
there. No.
of the October show in Germany. Great performance, if there was hostility, you don't hear it on the record. It sounds good. They're really, this goes to show you that that time Ian still has his voice. He's still, there's still a lot of power. And, I wish I saw this tour, but they didn't get around it too much, because if you watch the video, Come and Hot Water, Richie had a bad day, and
Yeah,
that pretty
he
much
did.
he walked off. So, needless to say, they had a tour that was to follow in Japan, and they were stuck because he said, "I fulfilled the European, and I'm out of here."
Yeah.
Or the Europe thing, whatever he did.
It's funny because we were just talking about how kind of gracious he was in fulfilling all the tour dates of Europe on the Stormbringer tour. Yet he knew full well that that show that you just showed was going to be recorded, and he basically screwed them over, right? It's just
Yeah, like so, just so people understand, during the show or the beginning of whatever happened during that day, they're playing Highway Star and they're waiting for him. And he's not coming on stage. In fact, they said, well, we got to go. And they went and played. I mean, they know it's being filmed. They paid a lot of money to get this happening. So he doesn't come out to his guitar solo actually happened in the Highway song. So the whole band is jamming away, doing their very best to keep it, a poker face that nothing's wrong. Richie will be here. Hold on, Richie, what's going on? And it didn't happen. And then when Richie came on, he threw water at someone. I don't know who he was aiming at, but it got the camera person or who, or if he was aiming at Ian or John. I don't know what went on. But it looked like he was there for the show, but he paid mild effort. Like he just skated along. In fact, there was a little lick in one of the tunes who went "Long Live Rock and Roll" with in a song saying like I'm gonna get my rainbow back together, almost like it was like a little signature thinking, yeah, I'm done. This is my last night, and he
yeah,
was.
not very cool, but that's the Man in Black, right?
But that's just what happened, right? And that's the
Yeah.
reality of the world. And
So Richie
then,
leaves. In for a short spell comes Joe Satriani. He helps them out, filling the rest of the tour. And I've got a recording from Japan from 1993. There we go. A couple different versions of it.
yeah,
Very cool stuff. I mean, hearing Joe playing in this band, I think is pretty awesome. And
yeah,
there's a
mine
lot of
December
lot
93.
of music in this.
Yeah, they get basically the same set list that they were doing with Richie prior to that. They kept it pretty much the same, I think. And so the guy was nice enough to want and learn everything that
Stuff.
was required of him, and he was offered a job. He was offered a job,
Turn it down.
but was it? Am I correct to say that did he suggest Steve Morris or they knew of him? I don't know, but that he was offered a job, and you know who knows what that would have been.
Yeah, but it's cool because you get a lot. You get a few, tracks from that era, like Ramshackle Man's on here, Twist in the Tail. But you got Pictures of Home on here. Anyone's Daughter. Who the fuck thought they would play something like that? Anya's on here. Title track Battle Rage is on. They do When a Blind Man Cries. So really, really good set list. They pull
Yeah,
out
it is.
Painted Black a little bit on here. You get all the classic Fireballs on here.
Yeah,
Which
you're right. Because when I look at the one that's just before with Richie on here, and it's the album that they will release, um, it's Highway Star, Black Knight, Talk About Love from that album, Battles Wages On, A Twist in the Tail, Perfect
yeah,
Stranger, The Mule. Yeah, so it basically has a few of the songs Battle Wages On, but in the Hall of the Mountain King, My Woman from Tokyo, Painted Black. They have a few of the same, but there is a little different set list here, so that's a good point you mentioned.
yeah.
Right on.
All right. Well, Steve Morse era. I got a few. I'm sure
Yeah,
you
I got
do as
quite a
well.
bit.
I think the earliest one I have is 96. You probably got the same one that I do, right? Live at Montreux.
Oh, I have that. Yes, I do have. This is one. This comes in. Look at 96. Yes,
Yep.
and also on the CD mode, I got it with the double album of it, so it shows you both of the concert. I get that in a second. It's right here. So 1996 and 2006, they put a dual one, so it's a double. So it's what you have, but they
Plus the
anniversary.
other
But
one.
I didn't know that at the time. I bought this because the curse is real. How to get it on DVD. Then I found out they released it here. So right
So
on.
is that this one here? That's 2006,
Yep.
probably.
Yep.
Yep.
So this one had both of them, 1996 and all that in one. But prior to that, his first appearance was in Bombay, and they have this called Bombay
They
Calling,
call them.
and you get the whole show and the DVD. But the only thing you don't get on the audio, I mean, is Fireball. Fireball is the opening song because he was talking in an interview. You know how they pan into the live show? They never put it on the CD part because it's just they can't clean it up. So, but you do get Fireball as the opening track, and then maybe Amelio and Black Knight, the Batters Raised On. Now I think it's with Steve, right? And so, Woman from Tokyo, Particular Waltz, When the Blind Man Cries, Perfect Stranger, Picture of the Home, Anna, Child in Time. Basically, a lot of the songs that you expect to see him, and great performance for him. And in the DVD, he sounds great. And I gotta say, to see this is one of the first performances Steve ever did with the band. So this is a historic part why you want it. And he's on the moment, right? So
And that's
he's
that's
actually
good to
more
have because
faithful by this point to the recording than I think Richie was during some of those solos. Like he gave you a lot more of the what you wanted, signature part of Richie, and then put his own stamp on it. He would do that more and more as he spent more time and earned his place. But in the beginning, he was very conscious that people got to be comparing him to Richie.
oh, for
It's not
sure.
an easy task to do. So unlike Tommy, he did his own thing. He made an effort to give you a little bit of Richie's signature stuff. He respected the man enough to honor some of those trademarks.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that Bombay Calling one is very notable because I think that, if I remember correctly, is one of the last live albums that they released where they played Child in Time, if I remember correctly.
Yes, yes, because eventually that will be dropped.
Yeah, because Ian can't sing it anymore.
Well,
Ian can't
demanded,
scream it
right? The
anymore. That's
demanding
the whole
part to
thing.
do all the other songs on top of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right on.
Let's see. I got a couple from '99 here. So if we go ahead to the Abandoned tour, do you have any from any perpendicular specific ones?
Yeah, I do. I have they have this called Live Olympia '96,
Yep.
featuring
Okay.
a lot of the new album at the time. And again, what a good album to come out with for the first time. And then people would be impressed. Just like you like Simon McBride. He comes out playing a lot of great guitar and want to let everybody know new kid is in town. And the same thing would be said about the performance. And then Live Encounter, which is a double CD of that same time period, which is important because when you get this DVD that says 1990, 84 to 2000, some of this footage, I know that that's where the audio is coming from, just from this. So I'm glad I got it. And then they have Live Encounter. I find out that I bought the same thing.
Yeah.
End up being in DVD. How to get it because I had the audio. And uh, and then you mentioned Abandoned. There's a total Abandoned tour right there. That's
Yeah,
where
this is
up and down
great.
the
Live
line.
from Australia '99, really good. And in fact,
Right
that
on.
here is that they pull out Bloodsucker, Pictures of Home,
Yes.
what else? Fireballs on here as well. Plus you got Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming, Black Knight, Highway Star, Ted the Mechanic. Great set list. This is just
Yeah,
really good.
absolutely, buddy.
Good rockin' show.
And great versions of this. And they're really in fine form. Like, I guess they're on top of their game here.
And then also from '99, we got the Live with the London Symphony Orchestra, which is pretty
Nice.
cool. I don't listen to this all that often. Me and rock band and orchestra things, I'm like kind of hit or miss with from time to time, but it's good. It's good. Hold on, I got to sneeze. Hold on one second here. I think it passed. When you try to sneeze, you feel like you're gonna
Porcelain.
sneeze and then it won't happen. I'm like, oh, come on, just do it already.
Get
So
over it.
anyway, but yeah, this is good. Dio's on here and a bunch of other guests and things like that. It's got the whole concerto for group and orchestra on disc two, plus other new and old stuff, and then a whole bunch of other cool things as well. But it's definitely cool. Definitely cool. Good live show.
Right on.
What else you got? I have one left. That's it.
What you got? Let's see if we're.
I got from 2011, another live at Montreux, another live in orchestra recording, 2 disc set, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I got that coming in. So, but
Yeah,
before we get there, that's when Don comes in a band. So I basically this show is 2002. This is kind of the where they pass the torch from John to Don,
yeah,
and so
they're both
John
together.
Lord actually plays in a handful of songs, and then he passed the rest of the show go to Don, and so he retired. So live at the MEC, and it really is a great show and a very emotional night. Like if you want to give a guy a good send off, this was a good way to do it while you're still alive. You don't have to be on your, because they knew he was ill, but he was still well enough to be able to perform enough and go out with this special moment. And it was, I'm glad I got that big time. I watch it. It's hard not to be shaken up by it,
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
it happened. Um, and this is interesting here too. Just before he passed that show, I forgot about this. This is one of those releases. It's like a cardboard CD, but it's awesome about this is that um, he kind of want to do the similar stuff that he did with the orchestration, John Lord, but this time he did a little bit of that butterfly ball that Roger Glover done. They invited Ronnie James Dio to sing some song that he sang on that record. So the first disc had Ronnie James Dio singing in with them with Deep Purple, and then they did Rainbow in the Dark with the band. And it's quite a few good tunes called Pictured Within, Sitting in a Dream, Love Is All. I think it's from the Roger Glover thing. Um, let's see, Rainbow in the Dark, Watching the Skies, and then they started doing their own stuff. Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming, Well Dressed Guitar, Wing That Neck, Fool, Perfect Strangers, and then they do the three movements of that original stuff that you saw in the beginning of our episode in 1969 as a recaptured in time because it's almost an anniversary since that happened. So they did that as one of the final recordings of John Lord get to go out with his stuff. Now you mentioned um, 2011. I think I got, yeah, I got that and I got this, but I got a few more since then. Trying to make sure I have it in the right order. Yeah, I do. Here we go. So these ones I didn't know. I'm just gonna show the DVD because the rest are all CD combo. What I didn't know is that this was a CD, and then I had to buy it because I didn't have the DVD. So I ended up getting them because, but the rest all provide the DVD with it. So I got this. It's called Deep Purple with the Orchestration live at Verona, and I love it. Like I'm not really one for sometimes orchestration lighten thing too much. Take it softens the band. Sometimes a band like Yes really don't need it, and some nights it sounds great. Some of it is it really necessary? Because I always thought the keyboard player always covered it. But this actually different. I think they did a really good job. I think it's one of my favorite versions of the orchestration. I like this one, I think, better than this. And the performance of the guy. Ian's voice is really up there. And so that is my favorite version of this. Um, we want to talk about now, they work with Bob Ezrin, and so they have recorded Now What, and they had a couple of albums that shows that tour. This was live in Rome, Italy. Hear that, Sal? 2013, so July 22nd, 2013, this came out. This is To the Rising Sun in the very place that they record Made in Japan. And they put out a two CD plus a DVD of that whole performance. And this is fantastic. But again, you get the new songs like Vincent Price, Contact Lost. They play some rare ones like they haven't done Hard Loving Man in a long time since like the House of Blue Light tour and a few songs on there. Above and Beyond. First time you ever get those songs. How to Pay from these albums. So it's very important. Then lastly, finally, the Waking or Whacking, I don't know how
Walking,
they
walking. Yep,
pronounce it.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's a good one. I have that.
right,
That's
he's
really
done
good.
quite a few shows on that, and it's an incredible
Yeah.
festival. They always have tons of bands, and everybody's there in solidarity and support on. But this is again a great concert. They're promoting that album with Vincent Price song and all that stuff. So basically, what I just mentioned, a few other running order changes, but great performance, an outdoor performance from start to finish. Now, at the end of that mark, they have one now. The final mark was Simon McBride. The only thing that we have today, if you get the latest album, Equal One, they provide a CD documentary, and there's some snippet footage of him performing some of the classics, including songs of Steve Morse era. Um, but there's no audio at this present time in 2024 of August. But what we pretty much, I think we brought up every live album. I think between the both of us, I think we covered it all.
Pretty much, pretty much. And I'm assuming that we'll probably see a live album released from the Equal One tour at some point, probably by next year, I would think. And I do want to mention the Wacken show, which I also have on Blu-ray. That's really cool. What's great about that, it's great to see, and I know European audiences are a little different than here. Here you have this audience, however many people were there, 30, 40, 50,000 people, were probably mostly hardcore metal fans, and they were totally into the Deep Purple set and gave them the full respect that they deserved. And that's really cool. That I
I
remember
know, I
watching
know.
that for the first time. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah,
That's how
and they
an
feel
audience
like they're
responds to a classic
triumph. They
music.
enjoying the moment. They're enjoying the status.
Yep.
But honestly, they should be having crowds like this all the time because they're that good and well. Uh, they give it all. And no matter what video, you're not gonna say, "Oh, Ian didn't really have it today." Ian Pace, or you're never gonna say, "Oh, Don, it was kind of," you're never gonna say that. No one's off their game except what you mentioned about Tommy because he's conditioned, but everybody's pretty much on this footage that we have from that mark. Steve Morse is lineup very professional. Probably the most guaranteed to make sure that the audience don't walk away disappointed. No one cutting corners to end the show so they can party. It's a different band then. and so and I got tickets again. I'm gonna see him in a couple weeks, or in a week or so.
Same
They're
here.
coming to
Yeah.
Toronto, and yes, he's opening up,
Yep.
and I'm gonna go check out this latest lineup.
Yeah, I'll be going on September 6th at Bethel Woods, which is the old Woodstock site.
Okay.
So yeah, looking forward to that. You know, I figure it might be the last time, so I want to see him with Simon at least once. So I
Yep, me
think
too.
it'll be cool. So yeah, so there you have it, everybody. A look at at the plethora of live albums from Deep Purple. There's a lot of them. If there's any that you guys have that you haven't seen us show or talk about them down in the comments below. Let us know because we may have
Yeah,
to go hunt
please.
them down and pick them up. You know. So, but yeah, there's lots to love here, and hopefully, if you love Deep Purple, but maybe only have the main ones we talked about and haven't really taken the plunge into any of these yet, hopefully you've got some recommendations now of ones that you really should be on the lookout for because there's a lot of really, really good ones here. So stay tuned next month. Rick and I will be doing this same thing once again, but we're going to shift focus to Jimi Hendrix, another guy that we both have lots of live albums from, and it'll be cool to kind of talk about those on next month's show. So till then, this is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the
All
damn
the damn
time.
time.
Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell to get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. If you want to get a Sea of Tranquility mug or one of those shirts like Rick's got hanging over there in the
Over
back,
there, yeah.
head on over to the link down below for the merch page and go check one out and wear it out in the wild and help spread the word of Sea of Tranquility, right? So
Right on. We
we'll see you next
appreciate it.
time here on Live Album Love for Rick Labonte. I am P. Pardo. Stay tuned next month for Jimi Hendrix. Till then, have a good one, everybody. Take care.
Take care.